Hello, folks. Welcome to the Footy with Mates. Let me tell you something. In around 3.5 years, roughly 42 months in other counting, or about 181 weeks, the AFL will be celebrating the arrival of its 19th men's and women's football teams to the code. But whilst they're a new club, they're a club that will be harnessing 3 centuries, Tom, of history, family, and legacy. This is a club that's been a lifetime in the making. I'm talking, of course, about the Tasmania Devils, who will join the league in 2028. But how, this is the question of today, how do you start a football club out of thin air? Where do you begin? What do you get to work on every day? Joining me today is the Executive Director of the Tasmanian Football Club, Katherine McCann. Hi, Katherine.
Good morning.
What's the weather there today?
Well, it's a little bit windy and a little bit rainy.
It is rainy?
Beautiful, midwinter Tassie day.
I was going to say, isn't Tasmania, by all reports that I've seen over the last 18 months, Hobart is one of the driest places in the world with no rainfall whatsoever. Is that true?
Well, it's been well reported that we're the second driest capital in Australia, but as we sit here today, I can assure you there's a fair bit of rain falling from the sky.
Yeah, fair enough. Good stuff. Now, I've done a bit of research on you, Katherine, and your career, but I'm just for the audience, how did you come to this role and what's the journey here?
Yeah, look, it's been a whirlwind, actually. It was probably about August last year, and I got a phone call from Grant O'Brien, who at that point was the newly appointed chair of the Tasmania Football Club. And Grant's one of those people that you come across in your career and you, well, for me personally, I always would welcome the opportunity to work with him. So when he called me up and he said, would you like to apply to become a director of the Tasmania Football Club, I had to pinch myself. I thought, wow, what an opportunity to be a part of what is, an extraordinary opportunity. So I applied for the role and I was fortunate enough to be selected as an inaugural director alongside 8 other extraordinary counterparts. And pretty quickly we determined as a board that we needed some more capacity in the business. As you said, it's a very big whiteboard setting up a new football club, and the opportunity presented for me to take on the executive director role. So I started that in January this year, and it's been an incredible journey, and I feel so privileged and so fortunate to have the opportunity to take on this role at this stage in the club's journey. It's
such an exciting period of time. Obviously, with were you involved in that week when you put out the $10 memberships?
Yeah, I sure was. I in the board, we've got a number of work streams, and we've got a fan engagement team as part of the board. And I work alongside my counterparts on the board. And when we were sort of strategizing around what our initial membership offer should be, we had a lot of different options on the table, and we opted for the $10 one. And I remember at the time briefing other parties and sort of raising their eyebrows a little bit around, that's probably an unusual strategy, but we knew it was right because from the start, we wanted to be an inclusive club, and we wanted as many people to feel that sense of belonging from the start. So when we got it out, it was quite extraordinary. I made a few fundamental errors, including notifications on my phone for every transaction that went through. And at one point in time, there were 31,000 people transacting simultaneously, and needless to say, my phone was bouncing off the table. It was a very exciting night.
Cradle, mountain, shook. It was what was your genuine ambitious goal for memberships?
Yeah, it's been documented and we've talked about it publicly that we budgeted for 40,000 members by the 31st of October. So that's the 31st of October 2024. So to be sitting within 24 hours talking about we've just hit our 100,000th member, it was fair to say that we were somewhat overwhelmed, maybe shocked. And I was starting to think about, oh, wow, how are we going to service all these members? And I haven't printed enough stickers and how are we going to go from here? But, it's one of those pinch yourself moments just to see the speed of response and obviously the breadth of it. It's very, very humbling, humbling.
How big is the front office at the moment, and how big was it that week? How big is it?
Yeah, that week it was me and one other, so there's 2 of us. And right now it's doubled. It's me and 3 others. So Yeah.
So there's 4 people at the Tasmanian Football Club at the moment.
That's correct. Yeah,
Wow.
we've got a board as well, and
Yes.
they're active. But yeah, we're a really small team, and we've got some other partners that are part of our journey. But we're definitely a startup.
That's fantastic to have, and for you to what the number ended up being 150, 170 or thereabouts.
We're currently sitting at just over 197,000.
Crikey Moses. That is it must feel so lovely to be embraced by the wider community. That's just so much love and also profit margin as well. What does that go towards in the next few years?
Yeah, so I'll start with the first part of the question. The love we've felt is real, and we did a lot of work before launch talking to community and getting out amongst it, and we knew that Tasmania's got 150 years of footy heritage. So we've longed for this for a long time as a place, and people are wildly proud of Tasmania, and we've got many, many Tasmanians all over the world. So we were thrilled with that response. We've got members from 55 countries around the world. We're really proud that 40% of our member base is women, and we've just got this beautiful
45.
40%.
40,
yeah.
right. That's
which is
incredible.
Just brilliant. Yeah. So we've been absolutely thrilled with that response. And in terms of the commercial results, if you like, the $10 membership was never about making money. It was about creating that sense of belonging for those that came on board. So we're actually giving a little bit in return. You probably know that one of the things that we've offered as part of the founding membership is your name on a wall or something at our training and administration home when that's built. So we're just working with the architects at the moment. The size of those walls are getting gradually bigger and bigger, and we're pretty excited about that.
No, that's so exciting. What do you think a Tasmanian fan base looks like? We were looking the other week at Hawthorn playing in Lonnie, and they were so engaged with the obviously some of them are Hawthorn fans who've come down, but there is definitely a fan base up there who love the Hawks at the moment. And the way they're engaged with the umpiring and with Fremantle, who are up against that day, was just so. It felt like it's going to be a real fortress. What are the traits of a Tasmanian fan base? We've seen it with the Jack Jumpers and other clubs, but what's it like?
Well, I was going to say, you're interviewing me in a JJ's jersey there, and I think for anyone who's had the opportunity to go to the Jack Jumpers home and to see them defend their home and defend this island, that is something wild. Tasmanians are fiercely proud, and the Jack Jumpers have taught us how good we are together when we are celebrating. I mean, we're a whole of state club. That's pretty special. It's the only club in the league that will be whole of state. And that sense of civic pride, I think it's going to be really noisy, fiercely passionate, probably highly parochial. I think one of the interesting things that I'm thinking about is as we move through the generations of our club, we might start off with a large amount of our supporter base having Tasmania as their second team because, of course, they've followed Richmond or Hawthorn or Collingwood or whoever it might be. But the next generation that comes through will be Soul Tasmania Devils, and I just think it's going to be this amazing transition as we move through. And the sense of pride, the noise, obviously the Macquarie Point Stadium's got a roof on it. I reckon we'll go a long way to lifting that roof. I
was going to say, so what was the stadium designs that were launched the other week? There's a lot of wood, which I'm very excited about. There's obviously a roof, which has been very, very covered. But what's the capacity at the moment?
Yeah, the capacity of that stadium's looking at 23,000. So I think you'd call it, in the terms of, fan experience, a boutique stadium. I think it's going to be really intimate and very, very noisy. And I'm aspirational but confident there will be a definite home ground advantage when the Devils play in that arena.
I was going to say 23,000. I think you'll be able to fill pretty regularly. I think. Like, how across the stadium details are you? Like the wood and can you tell us a bit about the personality of what they're looking at here?
Yeah, so we're a tenant of the stadium, amongst others, of course.
Yep.
Of course, we'd probably like to think we're an anchor tenant, and both our men and women will be playing games there, which is terribly exciting.
Oh, yeah.
From a development perspective, we've provided input into the Macquarie Point Development Corporation around the stadium, and our key piece of input has been in respect to the DNA or the fabric of our club and how we see this venue representing that. So we want our fans, we want our athletes, we want all stakeholders and partners that have the privilege of going to that facility to feel like they're at a Tasmanian Devils experience. And I think the team have done a great job. Last week, with the initial renders being released, was a really exciting step forward, and there's been some great response. I think the wood is definitely synonymous with Tasmania, and they've done a really good job. I think, pulling together with probably quite an extensive brief with different needs coming from all different parties, something that's terribly exciting.
Is the home base, the training facility, going to be nearby? Is that right? I'm trying to remember Tassie from when we've toured there for our shows. Is it down near the uni? Is that right? Or?
Well, I probably asked the question, for those on the Big Island, everything in Tasmania is probably nearby.
Is it near Mona? Is it?
Everything's nearby. Look, in terms of the training administration facility in our home base, the final location of that's not yet determined, but It's fair to say it will be in and around the city. And a key focus for us is to make sure, obviously, that proximity and the athlete experience, but also the ability to engage with community is at the forefront of our thinking.
How about Launceston as well? There's going to be an update to the UTAS stadium, is that right?
Yeah, and this is really important. So from a club perspective, we are a whole of state club. As I said, we are Tasmania Devils, the only state club in the league. And not only are we seeing infrastructure investment in the south with the stadium and also our training and administration facility, but we're also seeing upgrades to UTAS Stadium, or York Park, as it may be known, Hawk Park maybe, based on the comments around the Hawks' performance up there, and also Dial Park in Penguin.
Where is that?
Penguin is the far northwest coast. If you've never been to Penguin, you have to go.
Isn't
have
your photo of
Penguin. No, northwest. Strawn's on the west.
Oh.
So Penguin's a beautiful part of the world, and it's where some of our famous AFL athletes. We're talking Alistair Lynch territory, Robbie Fox territory. Amazing part of the world. Actually, Brendan Gale territory as well. So. With those infrastructure upgrades that are happening across the state are really, really important, and they're important from a fan experience perspective so the whole state can get behind it. They're also really important from a talent academy perspective so that we can make sure that young people, young boys and girls across the state are being able to train in their hometowns, in their home regions, in order to hopefully one day don the map for the Tasmania Devils.
It's a funny little ecosystem, Tassie, in that there is this rivalry between North and South, and they're almost considered different states at different points. How do you harness that and make it feel like it's not one against the other? Is it going to be split down the middle as far as games, or what do you do?
Well, I think the rivalry is probably it's one of those things that gets sort of maybe blown up a bit more than it is at times, and maybe it's just beer that's created the differential in Tassie. Bogues in the north and Cascade in the south, but. Look, from a state perspective, and I talked about the Jack Jumpers, I think the Jack Jumpers as a whole of state club has really shown how, particularly from an engagement perspective, we can bring the whole state together to celebrate. And when they won that championship this year, this state was alive. People were up and about and celebrating. So we're really confident. We've got great relationships. We're working across the regions. From a club perspective, we're out in community on the ground. That's going to be a key part of our future and something that we've absolutely committed to doing because we want to make sure every Tasmanian has the opportunity to connect. Of course, further to that, we'll see games played in the north and the south. Yep. So UTAS Stadium in Launceston will continue to host AFL and W games when we join the big league. And that's going to be really important so fans all across the state can feel that sense of accessibility to watch the Tasmania Devils play.
Let's talk Guernsey. Now, when you launched with the iconic state of origin, sort of the Tasmanian Guernsey, and very cleverly, I thought, launched it with the original, which was, what year was that Guernsey from?
1908.
Right, yeah. I said 3 centuries, but it was actually 2. I stuffed up. I assumed there was an 1800s thing, but not far off. So that was met with, obviously, that will be the one that in 2028, when the men's and women's run out, that'll be the inaugural Guernsey. Is that right?
Yeah, we called it the foundation jumper. And I think when we launched the club, there was a few people that sort of not sure. But the map holds we are so lucky to have it. As I said, it's synonymous with state. It holds so much heritage. So whatever the future jumpers look like, I'd say the map will be at the heart of it. Now, whether that looks like the exact foundation jersey, that will be worn, but there are going to be other machinations of that as we go forward. We launched the foundation jumper a couple of months ago for sale, and we sold 16,500 of them out of the blocks. So we've mappers, as we like to colloquially term the map, is now appearing all over the world, and I can't wait to see it run out. There'll be other Guernseys, of course, but that the map will play a key role in our future.
Yeah, lovely. And so at the moment, you mentioned there's 4 people in the front office for Tasmania. What does the scaling up look like over the next few years? So obviously the CEO, Broden Kelly, has been announced to start at the end of the year. What does it look like, the scaling up?
Yeah, so at the moment we've got a commitment to deliver what we call the establishment phase of the club. So there's a big whiteboard, as I said, and there's 45 tasks, and we're gradually ticking those off. We're making really good progress.
What kind of things are on that list? What are the kind of?
Oh, yeah, of course. So launching the club membership, progressing our infrastructure projects that we've talked about. Some of the more, I'll say boring, but fundamentals around organisational governance, making sure that we had nothing. So, organisational policies and budgets.
Go to Rebel Sport, get some footies.
That's it. So there's a big list. We like to kind of title that business plan as foundations, fans and facilities. So that kind of wraps up what the focus of it is. Now, that will lead us into the operational phase. So when Broden kicks off for us early in 2025, the organisational tip into ops. And that's when you're going to see, I'd suggest, quite a rapid expansion in the club. So there'll be new roles. Obviously, one of the key things that you're probably interested in, and so many of your listeners, is around the establishment of a footy department and watching that grow. So we're just working that through at the moment, but I'd say 2025 is when you're going to see that escalation and expansion, and that's really exciting because that really tips us into that operational stage of the club's journey. And
2026, I think, is that right? We'll see the Devils in the VFL. Is that right?
Yeah, there's been a lot of discussion about the VFL and VFLW, and we're working towards a 2026 introduction, and of course kick-off in the AFL and AFLW 2028. Those dates are still being worked through as we progress through the licence conditions, but all things being equal, yeah, we're looking forward to first bounce.
Wow. For me, just sitting here, it's so exciting. Very rarely do you get to build something that is going to have a leg. How do you feel having this role in this footy club?
I feel an enormous sense of privilege. I feel a lot of responsibility as well. And, there's a lot of people that have come before me that have fought really hard for this licence and to see it become a reality. I've also been fortunate to see the emotional reaction of Tasmanians on the island and off the island around how much this means to them. So we've got a responsibility, and I feel that, to do this right. And to see it through to the next phase. It's extraordinary opportunity, and I've been so well supported, and every day is a new day. Lots of fun. It's like trying to eat an elephant in many respects, working out which bit, but we've got a great team, and I think we're making really good progress.
There's been, obviously, the AFL's has a lot of great things, but there is a lot, people are ready to shoot down and be cynical about lots of things, and there's been many people taking pot shots at Tassie aren't doing this, or it's not going to happen, or this isn't going to happen, and it's come back every time. There's just so much force and optimism for this club, and it's just really, really exciting. And I guess as just a footy fan, thanks for all the work you're doing. We're also excited for the Devils when they come through in the VFL or whenever, and thanks for chatting with us.
Thanks so much for having me, and thanks for your support, and to all of you, to your team and to your listeners who've signed up and become founding members. Thank you for voting for Tassie. We're excited. We've got a lot to do, but we just can't wait to take our place on that deserved stage. It's going to be enormous for this place.
Cheers, Kath. Go Devils.